G'day, I'm Juzzy, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my MX400 and the changes I've made to it today. Out of the box, I've flown it around a little bit without much success, had a few crashes here and there. Today my camera mount arrived, so I decided to spend some time indoors. It was a rainy, cold, windy day, so there wasn't any flying to be had. I decided to go ahead and mount the LED lighting strips. Originally I had planned to leave them off, but I discovered that even with the red arms it's quite difficult to tell the orientation of the craft, so I installed some of those for orientation. So you've got your red on the front, top and bottom of the arms, as well as across the front quarter of the UFO itself. Turning around, it only came with 3 white LED strips, which, as you can see, I've mounted on the bottom arms and across the rear quarter of the canopy. Also with that, I've got the camera mount, which sits underneath. Currently have a GoPro camera lightly velcroed to that. That is adjustable, set up with the transmitter. I'll get into that a little bit later. So today I want to discuss the installation of these, the purpose of these, and how they work. Okay, first and foremost, lighting. As I mentioned, LED strips primarily for orientation. The MX400 did come with another set of 4 strips. Those 4 strips are designed to go around the outer edge of the canopy here. I decided not to install those purely because they were all the same colour. They didn't aid in orientation. They were bawdy, bright, flashing lights that flash through several different colours. They offer no assistance in orientation whatsoever. Based on that, they're just purely attention grabbers. I can imagine that with the flashing there may be some interference with the camera, depending on which angle it's pointed at, so I decided to leave those off. Installation of lighting was quite easy. So when it came down to it, it was just a matter of removing the canopy. Okay, as you can see there, it's quite easy. So once the canopy is removed, there's simply a plug that comes off the main board here. Okay, that plug, when unplugged, you'll see, takes all the lights on the whole chopper out. The lights themselves come in several different sections. Okay, so the first and foremost section of those lights was the 4 for the bottom arms. Okay, they're all connected together, connected in a loop of wiring, which makes it quite easy for them to install. Each and every loop has its own little section, which you can then plug the other lights into. So once that loop of 4 on the underneath had been installed, it was quite easy to go ahead and then start installing the other sections. So as I said, I experimented with the bawdy lights that hung off the side and flashed away there, and eventually settled on this configuration. So as you can see, for instance, you've got this particular plug here. Disconnect that, it disconnects on the top of the arm, so it's just an individual piece. You've got separate cables for basically everything except these 4 bottom ones. Installation of the lights all up took a little bit of time, purely because there was some experimentation involved. The actual process itself was very easy. There's only one power cable that comes off the receiver, so you're not going to have any problems at all guessing which way it plugs in. Once the initial row of 4's plugged in, basically you can't go wrong. All the power cables basically make it very easy to just plug in whichever way you'd like, run the cables any way you'd like. the main thing is, the recommendation is to keep them on the outside and away from the receiver. Very easy job, and as you can see, it makes orientation of the craft much easier than it perhaps otherwise would. Also arriving in today's post was the camera mount, which you can see I've attached here on the bottom of the craft. Okay, currently it's set up to use the mix switch on the Devo 8 to control it. It only has one axis, so it's basically got no stabilisation. It's not a gimbal, so to speak. It is just purely a way to mount the camera. I'm yet to test it because I'm waiting on some spare parts before I can get this back in the air. Mainly propellers. However, you can see, quite simple. It's 3-position switch. Each of those positions will allow me to move the camera in a different way. So if I want to look down towards the ground, I flip the mix down to the number 2 position. The middle position has a pretty much neutral field of view, facing mostly forwards with a slight downward angle, and then a slight upward tilt if I want to get a more aerial view. Installation of this was particularly easy. The mount didn't cost a great deal of money. Okay, so installation was a matter of removing 4 screws on the bottom here. There was a separate plate installed which covered the battery. Removal of that plate and replacing it with this particular camera mount. It came pre-assembled. Okay, there's a servo attached on the side with a single wire that controls the pitch, and very easy to connect. Basically, you just run that wire through and it connects to the receiver, nice and simple, on the top section right here, this cable that I'm pointing to now. Overall, I'd highly recommend the camera mount. I believe it'll be quite good. At this stage I will put some vibration absorbing material to stabilise the camera before I do take it out. The GoPro here is just velcroed on to give you an example of what the camera mount does, so that it has a camera mount attached purely for the purposes of today. Of course, as you may know about the MX400, it comes with this lovely case here. The problem with the case is in its default configuration you can't put the quadcopter away once it's been assembled. You have to basically remove the skids, remove the landing gear entirely, and with the camera mount you'd also have to remove the camera mount. Which brings me to the other change made today. The aluminium case, basically to store the rotors and keep them out of harm's way. I've simply cut the section from the bottom half of the previous liner. It was a 3-part liner. So it previously had an eggshell on the top, which I've now moved to the bottom. Then there was a section that held the transmitter and all the accessories, plus wires and propellers. And then this sat above, and from there the chopper then sat in there with no propellers attached, and of course no landing gear attached, or it wouldn't be able to close. This modification allows you to now put the chopper in complete with landing gear. Okay. Fits in like so. You're then able to take the propellers Oops. Okay, I just keep them in a bit of foam to keep them from rattling around and knocking into things. They're ABS plastic, so they're not going to come to any grief while they're in the case, that's for sure. So once that's in there, the case will close perfectly, as you can see. Nice and easy, and it just means now I carry the transmitter separately. No big deal. It does come with a lanyard, so quite easy to just throw the lanyard on. Wear this over your neck while you carry the case. Much easier than trying to disassemble and reassemble in the field, and allows fixes such as I have done with my skids here. I found the landing blocks to be a little brittle and stripped the bolts in those quite easily, so I fixed them with a bit of 100-mile-an-hour tape. Now I can keep the 100-mile-an-hour tape and put it in the case at the same time, transport it quickly and easily.